Radiance, without an edge. The mystical way of oneness. Ganesha's secret enclave. One enters the temple through a liquid tunnel adorned with golden-brown statues of Lord Ganesha. The aqua-blue water undulates under a clear glass cover. The visitor glides effortlessly toward the open chamber door. As one proceeds along the passage, one sees orange translucent shells growing from the embankment. In the center, and blocking the pathway, is a magnificent fully bodied Lord Ganesha, adorned with a dome-like crown. Strangely, as the pilgrim gets closer to Lord Ganesha, he changes form into a younger incarnation arrayed in psychedelic colors. Then, reverberating throughout the corridor, one hears, "To worship any being is to give something away. Are you ready for such a sacrifice?" If the seeker acquiesces and responds with a clear and convincing yes, then she is led to Ganesha's inner sanctum. It is here that the real lessons of puja are learned. What is worshipped is but a virtue that has yet to fully blossom. Finally, after displaying the requisite sincerity, Lord Ganesha blesses the aspirant with the following benediction. The first step on the inward path is grounded in acknowledging our limitations. Know thy limits, and only then can one be liberated. Matsubasho's retreat. The Zen master, trained in the Renzai school in Japan, then opened up an ancient parchment and read aloud the following. There is no retreat from the world, since it is, in itself, the retreat. Coming here, you go there. The master then pointed to the door, gesturing for me to leave the monastery. "But," I protested, "I just arrived." He then smiled and said, "Welcome," after which he gave me a broom and a dustbin and said, "Now clean." After I was done, 3 acolytes slowly, studiously, and systematically made me a cup of tea. They moved their hands as if they were choreographed by an unseen force. Finally, I was offered an emerald green cup from which to drink. On its side was an undecipherable symbol. The Epigones proceeded to recite in unison a haiku poem from Matsubasho. A monk quietly sips his morning tea, a flowering chrysanthemum. I was led into a clean meditation hall that had a large circular window looking out to the trees. There were 5 monks, 4 sitting and 1 standing on a slightly elevated podium. I took my position amongst them, but no instruction was given. After 1 hour of silent sitting, I was led outside to a sand garden, perfectly combed in expanding concentric circles, framed by lush foliage, trees, and artfully arranged rocks. One of the students whispered in my ear, "The sand is but waves representing our own thoughts." I then proceeded to imagine myself as a Zen master controlling all the chaos around me. I focused my attention on an illuminated orb which calmed the cascading thought waves as they crashed and lost their potent energy force. After this, I was led to a stone pathway where I was to continue with a walking meditation. I did this by following a senior monk, who led me deeper into the forest. All the while keeping my mind as still as possible and absorbing my environment unfiltered. The next day, all the Zen monks, under the guidance of the master, were led to a stupendous Japanese pagoda. We had to cross a bridge over a small waterfall to reach the multi-storied building. I wasn't sure at first what the purpose of our trek was all about. One of the younger Zen monks then spoke to me. The pagoda is merely a facade. What it conceals is more important. I then beheld a circular monument with lush green foliage framing a powerful waterfall behind it. I was then led to a grotto where there was a massive statue of Buddha. It looked ancient with moss all around, but most curiously, Buddha was holding a tiny head in his left palm. I asked my guide about its significance. I got no reply, but only silence. I saw a monk meditating near the waterfall and decided to sit myself and observe the sound of the rushing water. I forgot about the Buddha image and the other students. There was only the falling liquid splashing. Haiku 1. The old pond. A frog leaps in. Sound of the water. Haiku 2. When I ate a persimmon. The bell rung. The Horyuji temple. After this momentary satori, I walked on a lonely trail through the woods until I came upon an aged plaque. One haiku written on it stood out. A cicada shell. It sang itself utterly away. Rumi's Tavern. There is a plethora of mystical experiences, but the one that most seek is where there is no separation between the lover and the beloved, where only love reigns supreme and all worldly machinations disappear. Yet in searching for oneness, the aspirant gets entrapped in a dualism of her own making. There is no quest as such for this ultimate attainment. Rather, it is a radical undoing and letting go of all such pretensions. To be sure, there are many techniques that neophytes employ to help them calm the raging mind. In Sufism zikr, the remembrance of God by continued repetition of a sacred name or names is highly praised as a preparatory means to commune with the divine. Perhaps the most beautiful practice to witness is semazen, where the Sufi commences in an ecstatic dance, often referred to as a whirling dervish. Here one combines prayer and breathing with movement. As Rumi explains, dancing is not just getting up painlessly like a leaf blowing on the wind. Dancing is when you tear your heart out and rise out of your body to hang suspended between the worlds. Eventually, the Sufi dance reaches its apex when the student becomes aware of a very subtle, inner music that draws one out of the physical corpus. Listening to this inner sound melody is regarded as Sultan ul Azkar, the greatest of all spiritual practices. As Dara Shikoh forcibly argues, there is no practice better than that of hearing this sound. This is because every other practice depends upon the will of the practitioner. If a moment stops it, the practice ceases. But not so this practice. It does not depend upon the will of the practitioner. It is present and available without ceasing and without interruptions at all times.